No greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about priorities and political will. Nah! Every single time there's a budget shortfall or an economic hiccup, well, it seems there are always tough choices to be made. Between the private sector and government, well, you always know when something bad has happened to a few hundred wealthy people, because hundreds of millions of other people get all of their services curtailed and their wages and benefits slashed. That is, except for the military and the police, who somehow mystically always seem to have literally billions of dollars just falling out of their pockets, but that's another story for another time. Today, what I wanted to do was take a look at what happens to one group of the many groups of people who find themselves with slashed budgets trying to make ends meet just so society can keep running on the treadmill. Buckle up, everybody. It's time for another one of those not mystical jaunts through reality that's going to make you hate the current state of events just a little bit more. Here we go. Teachers in South Dakota scrambled to pick up $1 bills in a hockey game sideshow. Just go ahead, take a moment in your head, sort of picture what you think that looks like, because after I read some of the story to you, I'm going to show you what it looks like, and I'm going to warn you that whatever it is you come up with in your head, I promise you, it's not nearly as fucked up or as degrading as the actual video itself. The Sioux Falls Stampede hockey team had urged fans not to miss Saturday's contest, which it promoted as its inaugural Dash for Cash, which oddly enough rhymes with trash. With fans cheering them on, 10 teachers from local schools gathered around a large piece of carpet at center ice, where $5,000 in $1 bills had just been dumped out. It's adorable how they tried to make it seem classier than, just flipping the bills one at a time. The educators wore hockey helmets, but they made little contact with each other as they dropped to their knees to scoop up money and stuff it into their shirts and pockets. South Dakota ranks towards the bottom in terms of spending on education. The average salary for teachers in the state is less than $49,000 a year, which ranks 50th in the United States of America. Now, to be fair, they don't have very stiff competition because all of the other states are also in the United States of America, where I don't know if you've heard, but we spend a lot of money on police and the military and then cut back everybody else's spending. Yeah, that one's going to be a constant reoccurring theme, so hopefully you're not sick of hearing it yet. One critic of the Dash for Cash promotion called it dystopian, noting that while schools and teachers struggle, the U.S. House of Representatives just approved a new U.S. military bill worth, survey says, $768 billion. Woohoo! Johnny, tell them what they've won. Well, you're in luck. It seems today you've won an additional 2 destroyers more than was even requested in the original bill. Wow, you don't even get like a year's supply of rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat, or a home version of the game, or, an increase to spending in education. No, you just get 2 more destroyers. Hopefully they're going to be used in the U.S.'s war against illiteracy, because, of course, once we declare war on something, we're at war with it forever, because the war is never meant to be won. The sponsor, Homelender CU Mortgage Direct, said it saw the Dash as a way to help educators, noting the additional stresses brought on by the pandemic. Quote, "The teachers in this area, and any teacher, they deserve whatever the heck they can get," said Ryan Knudsen, over at CU Mortgage. He's their Director of Business Development and Marketing. Now, of course, our good friend Ryan fails to mention that if the company really wanted to donate $5,000 to 10 different teachers and split it up amongst them, rather than having them roll around on a carpet and scrap with each other for dollar bills, they could have all just, I don't know, each gotten a check for $500 from the mortgage company with a picture of them shaking some teacher's hand, and well, they still would have gotten their money. But of course, it's a lot better when you can make a spectacle of the poors and show just how far people are willing to go to be able to, I don't know, do their $45,000 a year job and teach the entire next generation of the United States of America how to fucking read. And now, let me show you what the Dash for Trash looked like. Oh, just look at them. Look at the poors go, just scrambling to stuff those $1 bills into their bras. Woo! Yeah! America! And now this is the part of the show where rather than just being pissed off and yelling, I hit you over the head with some facts, like this chart here, which shows just about how much money is spent on each individual public school child in the United States of America enrolled in a public school in K through 12. As you can see, back in 2008, we were spending just over roughly $14,000 a student. Then, we had that pesky economic downturn, and of course, everybody just had to learn to tighten up their belts and have less money, except for the police and the military who still had billions of dollars literally falling out of their pockets while they were walking around beating the shit out of people and stealing resources from other countries to make line go up. I know. I keep going back to this. It's almost like I really need to make my own video about that again. Maybe tomorrow. Now, obviously, the '08 crash was so debilitating and so economically devastating that it took a full decade just for the education sector to get back up to the level of funding it was at before the '08 crash. Could you imagine that? The entire economy took a decade just to get back to where it was? Okay, maybe not the entire economy. I mean, as you can see, after the '08 crash, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted all the way down to less than 7,400. That's a really, really low number. Meanwhile, in 2018, it was up to almost 27,000. Wow, it's like the private sector gained like almost 400% in the time it took us just to flatten out education spending, yet in that time in the private sector, tons of rich old white people became richer older white people, while literally tens of millions of kids went through an entire decade of education cramped into tiny rooms with not enough teachers, too many students, not enough supplies, and way too much paperwork. Wow, it really seems like we don't give a crap about educating people anymore. We just care about policing them and creating a jobs program for people who have a poor education, can't get into college, and then don't have any money going into the private sector and trying to get a job. Oh, wait a minute. I just made it all make sense. I guess we can cancel that planned video I had for tomorrow. Last week, Governor Kristi Noem proposed a 6% increase in state aid for public education, a move that the state's teachers union welcomed. Of course, inflation is currently up 6.8% just in the last year by itself, so yay? The money should go directly to teachers and staff, Noem said, citing the challenges they face and the need to compete in a tight hiring market. But the South Dakota Education Association also notes that if state lawmakers approve the increase in their upcoming session, it will still be up to school districts to choose where and how to use the additional funds. So what does all of this mean to you, the average viewer at home, the fellow member of the working class? Well, to start with, it means if you're ever short on rent money, it would seem the easiest way to acquire cash is to find wealthy people and then just sort of, come up with an activity or a character trait that pleases whatever their individual kink is, so that they will rain down dollars of benevolence upon you from atop their ivory tower, which is actually built by real ivory, but don't worry, they didn't poach it. They just traded for it with gold that they had melted down that was stolen from other countries during World War II. I don't know. I really think I do need to do this video tomorrow. Anyway, I digress. The larger issue at play here is that once again, we are seeing the issue with means testing and small incremental steps of improvement. Yeah, it took a decade just to get school funding back to the level that it was at in '08, but make no mistake, the last 10 years of additional money has come with tons of strings attached from federal governments and state governments, demanding that if schools want to get the full amount of grant dollars that they're applying for, well, then they're just going to have to hit some benchmarks and pass some more standardized tests. And so what happens is that teachers, rather than teaching things like critical thought or factual analysis or logic, well, those teachers are forced to spend the entire year solely teaching students how to regurgitate the necessary facts to pass the necessary state testing to get all the state funding, so that the money can then get passed through a state legislature, budgeted out to school boards, and school boards can then just give most of the money to administrators. Because of course they need to keep hiring more administrators to do all the paperwork that gets generated by filling out the forms from all the data that the teachers give them in order to secure the funding from state and federal governments. Lather, rinse, repeat. But don't worry, everybody. There's one thing I can promise you, it's this. We're never going to have means testing on police funding, and we're never going to have means testing on military funding. We will always find the cash to police ourselves and to steal other countries' resources. Just don't expect the U.S. government to take those resources and reinvest them in its people. Because as we all know, people are a renewable resource. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.